at 19 and a half and was a professional court reporter at 19 and a half. Okay. Nothing like Ed Varallo, who I believe passed the RPR at 17 or something like that. Or was it the RMR? I forget which. Yes. Let's continue. They wanted briefs for everything. They? I think that must be the consummate briefer. They wanted briefs for everything? Well, that's too bad, because I don't know anybody that says you should have briefs for everything. And in fact, I have always taught, and I have a slideshow to prove it, a PowerPoint production that has been teaching, that has slides that say, here is what I mean by writing short. And I give a precise definition. I say writing short means using briefs for common words and phrases, as many as you can learn. As many briefs and phrases for common words and phrases. Common is underlined. And what I call common, that's where the rubber hits the road. I call common for many more things than other people do. But there are thousands and thousands of names and words that I would write out in the same number of strokes that a Phoenix or a Sten Ed writer would write. The question is it the top 20,000 words and phrases? Is it the top 40,000, 30,000, 15,000? But it's something like that. But those other theories only offer maybe 1,000 or 500 or 2,000. And when I say offer, I mean encourage and require their students to learn them. I don't mean, well, they're in a book over here if you want to learn them. Then none of the students learn them. All right? So our last sentence was, they wanted briefs for everything. I'll just assume that he was exaggerating on purpose. While they asked the instructor how to brief Haflinger or neurotransmitter, it was easy to smile privately and get back to our own business. Again, I don't know if he's exaggerating here, but I can't imagine asking for briefs for those two words under any scenario. However, I do encourage people that if they hit in a speed contest or in an RPR or in a test the word Haflinger the second or third time, I say make up a brief on the fly for it, but don't memorize it. And if they say neurotransmitter in a take more than once and they say it a few times, make up a brief on the fly, sure, but I wouldn't memorize it. Okay, so let's continue. He's basically picked out the consummate briefer and has made them to exaggerate and made them to want to brief everything. So he's chosen someone who's not doing something right and attacked them as a way to attack a briefing. That would be like me picking out someone who writes the in 2 strokes and who writes the word about in 3 strokes and then saying, see, that's bad, so writing out is wrong. He's taking a bad example of one briefer who I've never met. Let's continue. So far, I don't believe he's made any points other than he said a number of things I agree with. Let's continue. It's not usually debated that a brief is useless if it takes longer to remember or cleanly to write than just writing it out. What? Let me read that again. It's not usually debated that a brief is useless if it takes longer to remember or cleanly write than just writing it out. I understand what he means. He's saying, if you can't remember the brief, it's kind of useless. You might as well just write it out. That's true. He said it's not usually debated. I agree with him. If you're going to hesitate and not remember, you should write it out. We are in agreement here. Continuing. Yet the advice more and more often has become to brief any possible utterance. Well, now he's exaggerating again. Or is he? He said that the consummate briefer tries to brief everything. And now a second time he says the advice is more and more often. That means he keeps hearing the advice to brief any possible utterance. Well, that would include anti-disestablishmentarianism. That would include include constabulary and juxtaposition, which I do brief. That would include any possible utterance. So he must not be exaggerating anymore. Let's continue. I'll read the sentence again. Yet the advice more and more often has become to brief any possible utterance, even if the individual strokes are easy to recall and execute. You know, again, this is some rare briefer. I've never met such a person and never heard such advice. And this author, could never find a single statement of me ever saying such a thing. If he tape recorded all my seminars that I've been giving for 10 to 12 years, he couldn't find such a statement. The pile of briefs and phrases continues to grow. Well, now that's true. I am continually shortening my own writing as I find new things that are short that I hear repeated. If I hear them often enough and I catch them. For example, I don't have a brief for my husband, my wife, but I'm starting to hear it more and more often, and it's getting really fast in Q&As. I'm thinking personally of finding a brief for my husband, my wife, my husband and her husband. But I'm flirting with the idea. So before we know it, we have briefs for anything and everything. Again, he's apparently not exaggerating, but it's simply not true. We don't have briefs for anything and everything at all. For example, my dictionary has currently 270,000 entries. The one-strokers in my dictionary, I believe, are less than 85,000. So less than one-third of my dictionary is briefs, and among those 85,000 is dog, cat, get, put, the, run, stop, go, start, tart, ear. You can't count those as briefs. Those are just one-strokers. So that's among the 85,000. And I would submit, I don't know for a fact, but I would submit that I am the shortest steno writer in the country, in the world, in the English-speaking world. And yes, that includes all the variants of these words, like dog, dogs, run, running, ran, rant, rants, ranted, ranting, operate, operator. Those are briefs, by the way. And so I basically have one brief for operate, and it can be modified to do operate, operating, operator, operators, operation, operational. But I basically learn one brief. And it doesn't take any extra memory or brain power to understand how to write those derivatives. So here I am, the shortest writer, and he's accusing somebody of we have briefs for anything and everything. That's simply not true. Janet, you're too funny. She says, unless he means NIG and EVRG, meaning we have briefs for anything and everything. Ha ha ha. Yeah. Yeah. Now, Phoenix theory is notorious for writing contractions in two strokes. Can't, don't, didn't, couldn't, wouldn't, isn't, which is a horrible practice and extremely difficult to keep up with. But let us continue. Some long phrases may end up being just as rare as consummate briefers' phantasmagoria. Well, I haven't memorized any rare long phrases, personally, unless they are a derivative of some easy way of phrasing. For example, I've made a way to phrase, she doesn't want, she doesn't have to, she doesn't have to be. And so technically, using that system, I could phrase, she couldn't have to go, which is extremely rare, and I've probably never written it, but I could do it as an outgrowth of my system. But I wouldn't have invented a phrase. I have not invented a system designed to cover a rare phrase. I don't care about rare phrases. So here again, the author is picking extremes that are obviously bad, setting them up as the standard, and then not